Hello students, welcome to the first lesson of reproduction in plants and animals, and we want to begin with the concept of reproduction. And in that, let us look at introduction. Reproduction is a characteristic of all living organisms, and it is important since it prevents extinction of a species. Extinction means that the species do not actually come to end, so there are more variety of that particular type of organism. And we define reproduction as the process by which mature individuals produce offspring of their own kind. Remember, sometimes you have heard in the media that a pig gave birth to something that looked like a human being. That is not reproduction. So they should be individuals of their own kind. There is what we call a mule, which is an offspring between a horse and a donkey. It is called a mule, and that offspring is not viable, meaning it cannot reproduce. So that is not reproduction. So it should be of their own kind, and that kind is also able to reproduce another individual of that kind. And reproduction is of two types. We have sexual and asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves the fusion or the union of male and female gametes to form a zygote or a young one. So in plants, you have the male gamete, which is the pollen grains, and then we have the female gamete, which is the egg. Then they unite or fuse, and then they undergo cell division to form an embryo. In the case of human beings, we have sperms being the male gamete and ovum as the female gamete. They come together, and then after that they undergo cell division or divide to form an embryo. The other type of reproduction is called asexual reproduction, and this one does not involve. What happens is that parts of the mature organism develops to new individual. You may be wondering how. This is it. This is the parent cell. The parent cell divides into two to form new daughter cells. We move to importance of reproduction. Reproduction sustains or perpetuates the species so that it does not become extinct. It ensures that life continues for that particular type of organism. Then it improves the quality of species, since reproduction allows mixing of genetic materials, which leads to variation among individuals, as we have seen in sexual reproduction, where we have the male and female gametes fusing. Both have different qualities, and if those two are of good qualities, then it leads to variation and better qualities are achieved. So that is the importance of reproduction. So let us now move swiftly and look at cell division. This process of cell division begins with the division of the nucleus, and in the nucleus are a number of thread-like structures which are called chromosomes, and they occur in pairs, and when they occur in pairs, they are called homologous chromosomes. Each chromosome contains genes, and these genes are the genetic materials transmitted or transferred from parents to offspring, and they determine the characteristic of an organism. We shall learn in detail in the first chapter of Form 4, genetics. So remember, what you acquire from your parents are called genes, and they determine how an individual look like. Each cell contains a specific number of chromosomes. For example, human beings contains 46 chromosomes. So this is a chromosome, that is, they are found in the nucleus. Okay, they are joined at a point here, and this is the structure of a gene. When you open, so these genes are found in the chromosomes, and these genes carry genetic material called DNA, and as I have said, we shall discuss in Form 4 in detail. Organisms contains specific number of chromosomes. As I have said, human beings has 46, and there are two types of cell division. We have mitosis and meiosis, and these stages occur in a smooth and continuous pattern. We shall look in this lesson mitosis first. And mitosis is a type of cell division in which the cells divides into two daughter cells, each having the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. And it takes place in all body cells of an organism to bring about an increase in number of cells, and that result in growth and repair. Mitosis is divided into 5 main stages. The first one is the interphase, the other one prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and finally telophase. So let us look first in detail what happens in interphase. During this stage, we have the following taking place. We have replication or duplication, or you can say multiplication of genetic material, which is DNA, so that the daughter cells will have the same number of chromosomes as their parent cell. So whatever the number of chromosomes the parent cell is having, the daughter cell will be having, because multiplication of the genetic material will have taken place first. After that, there is manufacturing of new organelles like mitochondria, ribosomes, and centrioles. And remember, the organelles involved in cell division are called centrioles. Then mitochondria definitely yields energy to drive all the processes of the cell, and ribosomes is required for the synthesis of proteins. Now, the energy for cell division, which is produced by the mitochondria, is synthesized again and stored in form of a molecule called adenosine triphosphate, so that energy drives the entire process. So we have synthesis of new organelles. This is the first stage, which is interphase. We have the nucleolus. There is not a lot of activities actually in the cell. We have the centrioles and many other things taking place. We move to the second stage, which is prophase. During prophase, the chromosomes become short and thick. Each chromosome is seen to consist of a pair of chromatids joined at the center, a point called centromere. In case of animals, cells, centrioles separate and move to the opposite poles of the cell. So remember, plant cells do not have centrioles. The center of the nucleus is referred to as the equator, just as in the on the surface of the earth we have the equator being the center. We have some spindle fibers beginning to form and connect the central pairs to the opposite poles. After that, the nucleolus and the nuclear membrane break and disappear. So we have these. They are moving to the equator actually. This is the center. You have the nucleolus and the nuclear membrane are beginning to break, and the chromosomes have formed. They have become thick and are already formed. We move to metaphase, the third stage. Here, the spindle fibers become long or they lengthen. And in animal cells, they attach to the centrioles at both poles. Each chromosome moves to the equatorial plane or the center and is attached to the spindle fibers by the centromere. These chromatids then begin to separate at the centromere. So this is it. They are moving to the poles, like on the top and the bottom, just as you know on the surface of the earth we have the North Pole and the South Pole, and the chromosomes or the chromatids are here at the equator or at the center, and they are being attached to the center by the spindle fibers. So the next stage is what we call anaphase, and during anaphase, chromatids separate and migrate to opposite poles due to the shortening of these spindle fibers. Chromatids now develop into chromosomes, and in animal cell, the cell membrane begins to shrink, or we say constrict. So this is it. The spindle fibers, you can see during metaphase the spindle fibers were long, but when we move to anaphase they become short, and the chromatids are now becoming chromosomes, and they have already separated and migrated to the opposite poles. The final stage is called telophase, and during telophase the cytoplasm divides into two, resulting into formation of two daughter cells. The chromatids collect together at opposite poles of the spindle fibers, and nuclear membrane forms around the chromosome, since we had said previously at anaphase that the nuclear membrane disintegrates. Actually, during metaphase that the nuclear membrane disintegrates, but here we have nuclear membrane forming again at telophase. Then the chromosomes becomes less distinct, and in animal cells it occurs through cleavage or constriction or shrinking of the cell membrane. In plant cells, it is due to deposition of cellulose along the equator. So we have what we call cell plate formation. Nuclear membrane forms around each set of chromosomes. So we are saying the cytoplasm divides into two, and there is a nuclear membrane forming. So the chromosomes become even less distinct. And how important is this process of mitosis? One, it brings about the growth of an organism, since we said it takes place in all the body cells to bring about growth and repair. And then it brings also about asexual reproduction, since it takes place in body cells. And it ensures that the chromosome number is retained, because we said during mitosis the number of chromosomes present in the parent cell is the same as the number of chromosomes present in the daughter cells. It also ensures that the chromosomal constitution or composition of the offspring is the same as the parent cell. That marks the end of our first lesson. Quiz yourself here, and you may replay the video or pause to internalize all the concepts. Goodbye, and meet you in our next lesson.